Hi, my name is Brian and welcome to the Week 6 discussion. I'd like to just take first a moment to discuss the final and Amelia and address this week's learning about anorexia and bulimia. So Scharf in 2021 article stated that questions formulated for the information literacy, he explains. Experienced researchers know that research begins with the questions. While asking questions is good, the quality of questions is important. In regards to Amelia's case, for the final, I want to take a moment to discuss whether or not anorexia and bulimia is even feasible. So on her adult psychosocial assessment intake, she checked a box that said she had appetite disturbance. What that is, we don't know. On the WHODAS, when asked about difficulties in the past 30 days, Amelia selected for the box severe for the label eating. Eating, that's all it says. On the severity measure for depression, for adults, she marked that she has a poor appetite or overeating, number 2. Or, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I will say that later on I did see in the level 2 somatic symptoms adult. In the past 7 days, she stated that she hasn't really had a problem with constipation, loose bowels, or diarrhea. So, ideally I can perhaps, make the assumption that her digestive system is working okay, so perhaps her diet's balanced. But I don't want to make too many assumptions. So perhaps with some of these boxes checked, a further assessment of specifically anorexia might be warranted. Now let's get to the assignment at hand. When applying this information to the final project, I need to consider if more than one potential diagnosis exists. So I'll state that in regards to if more than one potential diagnosis exists, I think currently there's a strong case for comorbidity. Currently I'm looking towards the idea of anxiety and depression. I want to take another look at trauma, but from what I remember, I think she's able to cope well with the situations of the past, but I'll examine that more. But I didn't really hear too much about her father's passing or the accident when she was younger. As far as bipolar 2, it seems like it has potential, but again, I'm not seeing the hypermanic or up moment. So since I don't really see it, I'm not sure, and so I'm leaning towards maybe eliminating that diagnosis. In the end, I think there's a high level of potential for more than one diagnosis with regards to Amelia's case because there are so many symptoms that are outside of just one diagnosis. I need to reflect to see if it's enough to warrant an additional diagnosis, however. So in 2021, Van Eden explains in his work Incidence, Prevalence, and Mortality of Anorexia Nervosa and Bulimia Nervosa that anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa occur worldwide among females and males of all age groups and are associated with an increase of mortality risks. What are the similarities and differences between anorexia nervosa and bulimia? Even though limiting calorie intake is attributed primarily to anorexia nervosa and the binge eating purging is more often thought to be with bulimia nervosa, these two types of distinct categories can be shared amongst both diagnoses. With anorexia nervosa, the most prevalent behavior that they all do is restricting caloric intake, and for bulimics, they may not always exhibit restrictive behavior. People with bulimia nervosa are not always underweight. One of the special unique elements with anorexia is the person is very underweight and has a fear of gaining weight. The last part, do other emotional disorders influence or affect an anorexia or bulimia diagnosis? Sure, most mental health illnesses do not develop on their own. The dual diagnosis phenomenon referred to as comorbidity of one or more additional illnesses. Similar to other types of psychiatric illnesses, including depression, OCD, and PTSD, that they may co-occur and perhaps even give birth to an eating disorder. So an example could be someone with anorexia nervosa. They may exhibit an obsessive-compulsive disorder. That makes it simpler for them to maintain stringent diets and refrain from eating even when they are ravenous. They may have a strong desire for perfection and believe that they are never skinny enough as a result. Additionally, they could experience high levels of worry and practice restrictive eating to lessen it. And just for a moment, I want to recap that OCD with the eating caloric obsession would have to take more than an hour per day and also involve rituals. In many cases with eating disorders, these are fertile grounds for the two diagnoses to feed and grow together. Again, this is my take on anorexia and bulimia. My name is Brian, and thank you for joining me for the Week 6 discussion.